2021. Moderating the discussion, Soaring Ambitions, Building India's Air Cargo Capacity, Paving the Way for a Developed India, is Sanjeev Edward, CEO, Cargo and Logistics, GMR Group. Sanjeev is responsible for the cargo business for Delhi, Hyderabad, Goa, and all new upcoming airports. This is in addition to his driving strategic projects for DIAL. May I please request Sanjeev to come onto the stage? Sanjeev, a warm round of applause, please, ladies and gentlemen, for Sanjeev. I would now like to call upon our esteemed panelists. First up is Camilo Garcia Severa, Chief Sales and Marketing Officer at IAG Cargo. Camilo has over 20 years of experience in the aviation and cargo sector. He recently returned to IAG Cargo following a 4-year tenure as Global Vice President of Business Development at Web Cargo by Freightos. Welcome, Camilo. May I please ask Captain Nikhil Ved, Managing Director, Blue Dart Aviation, to come up on stage. Captain Ved has over 28 years of experience in Indian aviation and is a qualified pilot with over 10,000 hours of command experience. He was also co-founder of Akasa Air. Welcome, Captain Ved. Mr. Manoj Singh is our next panelist, Chief Cargo Officer at Adani Airport Holding. Manoj has over 30 years of extensive experience in aviation, airport management, and supply chain. Welcome, Manoj. Our next panelist, Mr. Vishal Bhatnagar, Managing Director, Global Cargo Operations for Delta Airlines. Vishal joined Delta in 2017 and has also managed global logistics and trade compliance. Before joining Delta, Vishal worked for over 20 years at Lufthansa. Our final panelist for this session is Mr. Vaibhav Vora, Managing Director, Continental Carriers Private Limited. Vaibhav is an accomplished international business leader and also serves as chairman of the Logistics and Maritime Committee at the Indo-French Chamber of Commerce. Welcome, gentlemen. Sanjeev, over to you.
Yeah, we are good. Thank you. Just wanted to see if you're very active. Good. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. And once again, it's been a busy morning, and this is a very important session. In fact, this is the first business session of the Conclave. And the theme of the conference has been unlocking potential, paving the way for a developed India, and it resonates very deeply with the transformative change that we're looking in industry. I mean, Kapil in his opening address was talking about how India is going through this point. We are at a point of irreversible change in terms of our stability, and the growth is going to be phenomenal. We are looking at some significant cargo getting added. Now, this first business session, as you see, the theme is about soaring ambitions and building air cargo capacity and paving the way for a developed India. I mean, there are three elements to this theme. Of course, firstly is the soaring ambitions. And we as a country, we have soaring ambitions, and it's great to have that. We are poised to be, the third largest economy, overtaking Japan and Germany. We are also looking at, a Viksit Bharat vision of 2047, being actually reaching 10 trillion in terms of our exports. We're also talking of our ambition in civil aviation, which we've given ourselves 10 million metric tons that we want to handle as a country. We're also talking of e-commerce market, which is really growing. I mean, today from 100 billion to, it's talking about 300 plus billion we are talking in by 2030, which means, there's a 3x growth that e-commerce itself can drive. So that's the kind of, ambitious target that we're looking at. In the context of that, building air cargo capacity for the country. Of course, today, we don't have a exact number to it, but somewhere in 5 to 7 million metric tons is what our handling capacity is across the country today. If you're looking at, the growth, the 10 million metric tons, obviously we need to be adding a lot of capacity. But it's not about just tier 1, we also have tier 2. I mean, tier 2, our especially is very, very low. I was just looking at some interesting numbers. So our, the per capita warehouse capacity in India is just about 2.7 square feet per person, whereas, US is about 54. And we can say, we can blame our population for that. But even if you look at China, China is still at 8 square feet, which means we have to have 4x of warehousing capacity growth to really match up to those kind of standards. We also need to develop a tier 3. I mean, Incheon has a free trade zone of 200 hectares. Singapore has 70 hectares, adding another 80 more. Dubai has 70. So we really need to ramp up our tier 3 as well. We look at freighter capacity. I mean, India, of course, we in the morning we heard we have numbers are fewer. We are about 18 now. I mean, of course, some will come. But I was just doing some interesting maths. So in terms of the million square meters covered, so the ratio, so US has about 100 freighters for every 100 million square kilometers. India, by comparison, has only 5 for the 100 million, So that's the kind of scale that we're looking at. So where we need to ramp up in terms of capacity, a lot of opportunity there. But I have from there we position ourselves of, paving the way for a developed India. And what is really a developed India we're talking of? We're talking of India with a 7 trillion economy. We're talking of India where, the per capita is going from almost 4,600 by 2030 to 21,000 by 2047. We're talking of, among the top 5 in the logistics performance index. We're talking of a country where the internet usage will be estimated to be more than 80% by 2047, which means digital will continue to have a strong force. So against that backdrop, I think we are talking of where do we position ourselves in terms of air cargo, which plays a very pivotal role in not just facilitating trade and commerce, but also driving the economic growth and development for the country. As we gather together, we're talking of, being a developed nation, and what is it that's going to drive us. Very interestingly, I think morning Piyush made a statement that Indian air cargo sector played a very pivotal role during COVID. In fact, I know that out of Delhi itself, about 38 million PPE kits were distributed across the country under the leadership of the then senior economic advisor, Madam Vandana was there, and the team. So this sector really helped maintain the supply chain connectivity, ensuring timely delivery, supporting the economic revival. But the one this has led to increased capacity, reduced congestion at airports, improved efficiency. But one very important thing which came out in the morning was that, sometimes when people choose a mode of transport, they kind of stay with it. And that's something which should be something that air cargo should enjoy, because some of it moved and it saw the benefit of it. But there's a lot of synergy which needs to happen. So without getting into more detail, I would like to, I've got a very distinguished panel. In fact, Manoj, heading Adani Airports, Nikhil, one of the, primary, I would say capacity providers in the country in terms of domestic connectivity on freighters. Vishal coming all the way from Delta. Delta doesn't fly here yet, so you're still here. Any quick? Not yet. Okay, just make a note of that. Not yet. So there's something happening over there. And we've got Camilio. In fact, Camilio IAG has become ACFI members, and they have just taken after the founding members, the highest level of membership they've taken. That shows your commitment to the country, and of course, on behalf of ACFI and our air cargo fraternity, we thank IAG for being part of this. And also Weber, thank you for being here. I think you are also doing some very innovative things in the air freight sector, so and some different defense sectors as well. So thank you for the panel for being here. So ladies and gentlemen, we've got this panel, but this panel and all of us actually are ultimately serving the shipper. That's our customer. I mean, we may be individually doing what we are doing, but as a chain, we are still facing the shipper, and that's the ultimate customer that we serve. And before I really get into my questions, I'd like to have an opening question for each one of you, and probably Camille will start with you, saying that, from a shipper's perspective, if you really put yourself in the shoes of the shipper, what do you think the shipper wants the air cargo industry to deliver for them?
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Sanjeev, thank you for having us here, and congratulations to yourself, to ACFI, for setting yourself very ambitious targets and objectives for such an amazing industry and country as India. For IAG Cargo, being here today is of specific relevance. India is one of our most important origins in the network. It currently represents over 15% of our revenues, and with more than 50 flights a week between India and London, there is definitely a reason to be here and support your efforts. When talking about the shipper, what does the shipper want? I think initially that the shipper does not want to deal with the suppliers. The shipper would like to deal with partners. Partners who understand the value and the effort that has gone into producing the goods that we are carrying. Shippers would like to deal with partners that are going to add value to their product, partners that are going to help us conquer the world. They want transparency. They want different players who are working together and not in silos. They want an industry driven by technology and data. And they want us all to succeed. I think we need to keep on competing among competing carriers, if that's the case, but we need to find ways to cooperate rightly in the way that we can add value to the shipper, to the economy, and society.
Thank you. That's very well put. Vishal, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Sanjeev, and thank you for having and inviting us here. So thanks goes to Yash, who invited us. So great to be here, great to meet some old friends. It was a great evening yesterday. So I'll just get to the question, what the shipper want and what the shipper require. And I think the shipper requires fast, reliable, safe. When I say safe, it means not damaged and at a competitive price. But one more important thing shipper also requires is that what kind of service recovery we have. What happens when things go wrong, and how quickly we react to it, how quickly we bring it back on track. All these things are being reliable and safe and fast will come, what Camilo said, by coordination, cooperation between all the partners, airports, airlines, and other ancillary partners within, including regulatory partners. So that's what they.
Thank you. Nikhil.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Sanjeev, thanks for having us here. I completely agree with what Vishal said. No difference there. So, having goods delivered safely, expeditiously, at the least cost is, I think, what the shipper wants. So I would just stick to that.
Thank you. Vaibhav.
So Sanjeev,
You're closest to the shipper, so I think you should give us more insight.
correct. So I think from an LSP's perspective, I'll say the shipper wants not to worry about freight. He's got too many problems on his hand. He's got raw material to worry about. He's got his container getting missed out in China with the raw material. He's got his buyer not giving him a price increase. So everything boils down to the shipper taking that load of managing his own internal supply chain supplies and letting somebody come in and take over that headache. And he doesn't want to know that there is a different regulation on sea cargo, there is a different regulation for air cargo. Now that the vessel is skipped, Navasheva, I cannot take this cargo to the airport and ship it out of an aircraft, because if I don't supply this to my buyer in 15 or 20 days, I skip the order. The buyer doesn't need it. He misses his season. So multimodal movement, connectivity. He is focused on his industry. He's focused on his benefits on the FTAs when he starts supplying to Europe, when he starts supplying to the US. And he's got too many problems with regard to GST, with other challenges, which is fast change required in an ecosystem like us. So when it comes to supply chain, what he's looking at is a service which is unanimous across modes. It's unanimous across, service levels, and there is certain level of consistency. So these challenges, and obviously a lot of elements are not in our control, geopolitics, weather conditions, flight restrictions, but having somebody where they can give a cargo to to a company which can come in and say, okay, if it's not moving out of Delhi because there's payload issues, we can send it to Dubai and then get it out of Dubai without change of documentation, and having you come to the authorities and explain it. So obviously just ease in the whole chain.
Good, thank you.
Good afternoon again. Back again.
Yes.
On a very important session. I was looking forward for it. Shipper or any customer across any business, I'm not talking perspective from our air cargo business, shipper would expect every day what he's getting today should be different, better than what he's getting. That's a basic and the most important. Every customer, I'm sure, Vaibhav, if you've done a well done job, shipper is very happy. He'll not give you extra price for it, but he would expect 10 more services to be added in that. So we need to cope up as a service provider, as an infrastructure, or the entire ecosystem. We need to think beyond what the shipper would expect, and you should be geared up for that. I think that's all across the ACFI. I don't know how many shippers are here in this forum. So we need to bring them as well. So there are 1, 2, or not even 0.1%. I think that's where we need to engage them as well, so that expectations and transparency will be there, clarity of thoughts, transparency in the transactions, and be very clear on what you do, be very clear to your customers, and that's what the expectation would be.
Great. Thanks a lot. So much for the shipper. I mean, when we are talking of shipper being the ultimate customer, maybe, Vishal, I'll first actually come back to you, because you've come all the way, you've come a long distance, and you're looking nice and wide awake. I'm happy, with the jet lag, you're managing well. So tell me, I mean, what is Delta doing in terms of, that improving that customer promise? Where exactly are you focusing? Where are you investing?
Yeah, first of all, about jet lag, there is a lot of coffees behind this smile. So, so what is Delta doing? So, Delta has about 5,000 flights. We have 5,000 flights a day. That's what we fly. So, and we just transatlantic, we have about 1,800 flights in a week. So, there is a lot of things going on, and I always say most companies today are technology companies, because we all focus on technologies, and Delta is doing the same thing. We are focusing on technology, we are investing in technology, and a couple of examples I will give you on technology is, first of all, like on Delta Cargo side, we are changing our operating system. And why are we changing it? A, of course, it's old, and B, we need to give shippers what they want, dependable service. Shippers also want visibility today. We live in an Uber economy where we all want our Uber. We see our Uber coming to our home, and we all want to follow that. And shippers also want to see that. Shippers also want to see that visibility, where their freight is, what is happening to your freight, is it coming on time or not time, and if something is going wrong, how quickly we are reacting to that. And it is difficult, because if we give that visibility, they will have same visibility as we do. So, and that's what we want to do. We want to give our customers same visibility as we have internally. So they are able to see, and we are able to see the same thing, and we react very quickly to make sure that things are going back on track very, very quickly, before there is a call made, or before that that customer calls us. Because it's too late when the customer calls us. So focusing on customer experience, that's the Delta model. In Delta, we always say safe, on time, clean, with cargo and bags. That's our motto. So that's what we do. Other thing which we did on technology is we talk about e-commerce, and all airlines want to be in e-commerce, and it's a very sexy word which has been thrown around for some time. But what we have done now is that earlier this year we started a product which is called Deliver Direct, and we actually connected with the businesses, with the shippers directly. Like when I talk shippers, I'm talking about Saks Fifth Avenue of the world, Foot Lockers, and they also have needs. And when we buy something online, they have a need of transportation. How do you connect that, and how do you give them end-to-end service, which is from first mile to last mile to the consumer, to the end consumer? So it's direct to consumer, and we are able to solve that. We are doing actually pretty good. We have brought in a lot of customers right now, and that product is working very well. and it connects from end to end. The moment you click that button, ship it, and the order is created, and we connect it. We are the middle mile provider. We have a partnership with the first mile and last mile providers, and we connect that. So it's a complete different line of business. So those are things which we are doing, and we give complete visibility to customers on that. So those are the things which we are doing. I mean, I can keep on going, but, but the clock says no.
Yes.
So I will stop here.
But that's, I mean, it's very insightful. I mean, of course, Vishal is still around. If you want to know more of what exactly they're doing, please do continue to engage. But, coming on a different, wherever you talked about, the customer should not worry. I mean, once he's given the cargo, then he should just forget about it. So, and using whatever modes of transport, as a service provider, but make sure the customer's needs are met. So tell us, I mean, for India, we're talking of enhancing capacity. It's not going to happen with pure air alone, right? You need to have multimodal support to really meet the kind of growth that we're looking. So where exactly, I mean, do you see we are in terms of our multimodal, and what more can be done for us to be really, leverage that multimodal opportunity as well?
I mean, in totality, see, when we talk about multimodal, you're seeing a huge surge in industrial output. And air cargo, as we spoke about, is linked to time critical, is linked to high value. And these industries are obviously going to take time for it to get developed. So air cargo is definitely, going to be growing at its own pace. But when you start looking at multimodal in nature, you have to start unlocking infrastructure combinations. Like, for example, adding road to the air movement, like off-airport facilities which are there, to be able to bring in and use the capacity that is already there, been created, because adding more capacity is not going to be viable from a unit economic perspective. So bringing in this, the road feeder mechanism for built ULDs into the airports, or if you talk about, just the air-sea combinations that are being spoken about, across the world, because as a transshipment hub, you will need to bring cargo by sea mode and then offload it. Like, it's 8 days today from a regional connectivity from Singapore, not even 8 days. It's close to about 6 days on some of the vessels that can come in from Singapore. And then that can actually flip into an air cargo in 3 days into Europe, which is still better than 60 days into Europe. So you're giving a 15-day solution on a multimodal model. I mean, Dubai thrives off it.
Yes.
With just purely transshipment cargoes that has been coming in. So why can India not have that? Considering that India's also got a big consumption base. So that one container that's coming in has 50% raw material being used in India and 50% that's going to go out to feed into Europe or other markets. So this is definitely something where we already have the infrastructure, we have airports, we have seaports. Now you need to have the necessary blood flow connecting, the veins and the network to connect it through, which is a policy framework.
Right.
All in around it. So policy with implementation, with champions from the industry and customers who want to come in and champion it out.
And it's very right. I mean, Dubai does it very well. Some other places also do it very well. So multimodal works great. I think that's an opportunity waiting. You very rightly mentioned that. There was this talk about infrastructure that we're talking, and Camille, I'm just coming to you. And when we're talking about capacity growth, also capacity is not just capacity per se, but you also have product verticals that need special requirements. You've got pharmaceuticals, you've got perishables. So tell us, I mean, in terms of your, India in your plans, and when you're looking at India, I mean, how are you also looking at these special products?
Thank you. So in terms of capacity, first of all, a couple of weeks ago, we announced the increase of our capacity between New Delhi and London Heathrow as of the summer schedule of 2025 to 3 daily. So that's additional support for the Indian market. Specifically on Constant Climate, our pharmaceutical product. India was one of those markets that led us to build a whole new facility in London to deal and manage pharmaceutical products. We do not make this type of investments without a market like India supporting the volumes and the business behind pharmaceuticals. It's India, the market where we have been able to build very strong relationships with the freight forwarder community and also with the shipper community in the pharmaceutical industry. So I think it's a great example that we use internally, and I think as an industry we need to look at into how, in a tripartite basis, we can help ourselves to grow much faster than what we can do in an independent basis. Similar from a perishable perspective. Both Constant Climate and perishable products have grown both double-digit versus last year for IAG Cargo. And it's a testament not only on the team that we have here, on the capacity that we have, but on the strength of the market. And it's a strength that we are very positive about for the remaining of the year and the years to come.
Thank you, thank you. Nikhil, I mean, we're talking a lot about infrastructure, we're talking of special products, but, you know, I just shared some stats. I think our freighter penetration in the country is about, you know, 20x less than what US has, you know, and you are one of the service providers, you know, who's offering freighter capacity in the country. So, you know, what really needs to be done if we really need to, you know, as the landmass that we need to serve, you need good freighter connectivity, domestic freighter connectivity. What exactly are your thoughts on, you know, focus in that area?
I think from a freighter perspective, it's not that India hasn't grown. Although the numbers look very small today and comparatively to the world, they are a bit smaller. But when I look at the history of Blue Dart, we started off with some 737-200s. It was, you know, pretty short on capacity in the sense you were doing only about 15, 16 tons a day. And come 2006, you upgraded the gauge, although you didn't increase the number of bodies to 757, which almost doubled the capacity. So whilst we don't have more on frequency, we have you know, bumped up the gauge significantly. So I think that's what's happened. And last year, we again added 2 more aircrafts on the 737 purely because the 757s are, you know, old now and they need to change. So there has been growth, but yes, it has been very slow. And I think one of the reasons that we see is, and what we see now happening in the industry today is more of collaboration. I think the market sometimes is too fragmented. And this I'm only talking from a freighter perspective, because when you're looking at a 757 aircraft, you're looking at 27 tons or 30 tons leaving at one time from one airport for a destination airport. But when we see the freighter cargo that is coming in, you may have it a lot less fragmented and wanting to go to different destinations. And obviously, belly cargo is more suited from that perspective. So you will always find the number of freighters to be, you know, much, much far lesser. And even if I see what Kapil had put up, he's, you know, forecasting to be about 40 or 50 freighters, you know, at the end of that period. And we're already doing about 18, 19. So we are, you know, maybe about 33%, 40% there. So I think it's going to happen. It's just a matter of us as an industry getting together, collaborating. I think there have been good talks that are also emanating from the airports, you know, Delhi, Hyderabad, Bangalore. We've been in discussion with many of them to see how this can be, you know, made feasible. What Vaibhav spoke about, the, you know, multimodal approach also is going to assist, because what we are looking for as a freighter is more volumes driven on a sector, and I think that's what makes the freighters tick. Running freighters at 10%, 15% capacity is not going to cut it. We all know that, you know, air cargo is one of the most expensive ones, so we need to make sure that we all can actually pitch in and get the volumes that we have. So I think that's probably the way forward for India. On that note, we usually have been pretty much tied up with narrow body freighters, and I think one of the key questions was also what happens to the wide body freighters. And I think, to my mind, that again stems from the fact that unless we're able to generate volumes from a particular location with some collaboration, consolidation, you will always find it challenging to run wide body freighters across.
Great. No, thanks a lot. I think it's very interesting to hear. I know you talked about conversations where now actually the airlines are also talking to the different people in the supply chain of how we can collaborate better, consolidate loads, and that justifies the freighter case. I mean, that's great. Just coming to Manoj, we've talked about the growth that we're talking. I mean, there is definitely a shortfall in terms of capacity that the industry offers in Tier 1, if we have to really look at the 10 million and beyond kind of thing. So what exactly is being done? I mean, from India perspective, what needs to be done in Tier 1 enhancement, Tier 2, Tier 3?
So let me talk about our group, what we are trying to. We are equally poised because we are the only group across in India and across the world to be in the best position to provide a very clear solution to the customers. We are into multimodal, where We are into the port sector, we are into the ICDs, and we are into logistics sector. Now our endeavor is to connect all these products into the airport connectivity. And that's where I think even GMR Group is also working on those lines where we try to go beyond the airport. And the most important thing is, if we rely only on an infrastructure at the airport, you're not going to sustain for a long time. You need to have a logistic park connected to the airport or within the radius of 1 kilometers to 2 kilometers max, because you need to curtail down the cost. The most important is the cost element of the customer is maintained, that itself is going to give a growth aspect. And of course, regulatory frameworks and all, we intend to go with ACFI is working towards getting the regulatory framework challenged to the customs as well as to the other regulatory bodies, because it's a continuous process. But when you come to, as a group, last year we had almost 5 stations metro that you mentioned about. The gateways are 6 metros, but now other airports needs to also gear up. So we created a facility and it's running well. Tomorrow we are going to go live of Mangalore International Cargo Terminal. Of course, some trials are going on. So tomorrow we'll be launching our international cargo at Mangalore. So there are potential, but what the most important aspect here is certain regulatory framework really keeps a challenge to the environment, where the customer will always look for the gateways, main gateways, and that's where the volume of the cargo gets curtailed down. And that's where, Northeast is potential market, which is really untapped. We're trying at Guwahati. Blue Dart has moved into Guwahati, and that's where they are trying to create a lot of disruption there. And I'm sure the moment they have geared up in the last 4 months, they have really made a lot of new products, and new e-commerce is a key area where 90% of the inloads are coming. But as you rightly mentioned, Nikhil, that you need to have a turnaround of freighter. So we as an airport needs to create that kind of environment and infra to complement every kind of products. And that's where product-related cargo terminal is also important. So we make that facility at the airport and also consolidation at closer to the airports. And that's where I think the focus is all about.
Thank you. And Manoj, if you notice, he doesn't lose an opportunity to make sure, people know what they're doing and all the launches and all he's announcing over here. So, well done on that. I know it's been a busy day, and the audience has been more on the listening side, so I would like to make it a little interactive and, maybe hear out in the time that we have available. But before you can jot down your questions. We may have a time for a few questions, but before I open, just few comments from your side. If I were to give you a wish list, what is that one thing that you would want ACFI to take back in terms of our ambition of actually developing India's air cargo capacity? What is it that needs to be done from your perspective? Just one quick comments, and then I will like to open it up for some questions from the audience.
Thank you. Well, it's going to be a very quick, short, more than one request. I think as an industry in India, we need to keep on focusing on digitization of our industry. We need sustainability to be higher on the agenda. I would really invite for the next forum that we have the next generation who's going to take over from ourselves to be here and to be more present. And I would like to have a much broader representation of the huge female talent that we have in this industry. They need to be more prominent.
Well done. You've said all the right things. I don't know what the others are thinking, but we've got smart people on the panel, so I think, Vishal, over to you.
I have nothing to say now, Camilo, after that. Yeah. So, but digitization, yes, of course. I mean, as I already mentioned that multimodal, I think Vaibhav mentioned about it. I think that's something which I would think is very important for us here in India. And so it comes with digitization and connecting different partners together to create that multimodal transportation. And also, I mean, it was great to see how closely industry is working with the government, or government was working together with industry. It is great to see that. I mean, it is amazing to see that. I left India 23 years ago, and at that time things were a little bit different than how they are now. So it's great to see it. So one thing I would say is, which should improve is also, can improve is also on the customs side, where you can get clearances for the customs and can then speed up the transportation process and clearance process. So that's what I would say.
Thank you, Vishal. And you've been very, very choosy with your words, and you're saying all the right things. But yes, we have come a long way, and Madam is a great testament for that. That the industry and government collaboration is working great now. In fact, customs was supposed to be on the session this morning. They could not come, but yes, they are doing a lot of progressive things in India as well. Nikhil, over to you.
Yeah, Sanjeev. So, just two things from my side, and of course, I agree with what my fellow panelists have already put down. One is, of course, digitization, and I think from an airport infrastructure perspective, if we are looking at the growth that's going to come up, I think we need to start promoting, more off-site warehouses or AFSs, you want to call it. Even as a domestic airline, I think it's important for us to start moving away from the airports and start looking at a pass-through mechanism just to handle the volumes. And so that's my request to ACFI.
Okay, thank you. I think he's already said what you wanted to say, sir.
I mean, it wasn't me. So, I mean, at this point, the challenge is coming forth here. I think the esteemed panel is already covered.
You can say what Manoj wants to say now, actually.
So at this point, I think, the main point would be to look at the multimodal perspective and the hubs as we spoke about, right?
Sure.
So the whole thing dovetails into going into something which is creating these hubs, also looking at pure air freight corridors within India that can be created to bring cargo closer, bring air cargo closer to those tier 2, tier 3 cities, such that people who are getting access to e-commerce and other new opportunities, omni-channel distribution opportunities, can really start, utilizing this, who don't have the infra to reach out to, Delhi, for example. Yeah. So giving them that off-airport basis, the support is only possible when infrastructure is brought to where the opportunity is. So that would be my request to ACFI. That would be a definite good challenge to take up and see how we can bring that to light.
Good, thank you. That's a great point, getting closer to the customer.
So, two panelists spoke about multimodal. So, ACFI is also a smart multimodal association which covers every stakeholder, and that's the beauty of it. The success story today, what we see about ACFI is all about consolidation of all stakeholders. It's not confined to only one industry, and that's where the success is all about. Let's be very objective. Let's not talk macro level. Two things which maybe next forum we should complete the task. Sanjeev, we all have to drive it together, and of course Yash is there. The transshipment policy needs to be changed for this country to develop. Otherwise, Singapore and Dubai and other countries and the main gateways will flourish, but India has a potential to flourish at that level. That's our first point. And the second one is about the cost recovery. I'm taking a risk of talking about cost recovery in this forum, but still I need to deliberate that. The cost recovery is again a deterrent to the industry where it needs to be wiped out. It needs the metros and smaller airports, they do not have any volumes, but the cost recovery is impacting the whole ecosystems. The cost is going 3x, those smaller airports. So that needs to be, and that's two major target we need to really accomplish, and I'm sure this is the only forum which will really drive this to make it a success. So all the best for that.
Great, thank you. I think the transshipment again is a great point because, and you very nicely articulated, Manoj, because here you're competing with a different country. I mean, at least collectively as a country you can come together because you are, competing with, somewhere in the Middle East or Far East. And how do you collectively become more efficient so that you become a preferred choice as a country for transshipment? So that's a great point. And as I said, we will now like to open it up for questions. I was recently at a panel and it was chaired by somebody and they made a very nice point. I can see a lot of hands, so we will see. So they made a very nice point and which I've taken as a great learning. So you can't ask the moderator any questions. Okay, the questions are only for the panelists. So let me set the rules first and we will quickly move around. So Tushar bhai, let the people in the first line, I'll take the first question and then I'll go at back and then come back to the front. So
short question, short observation. We are talking about freighter, and Nikhil could probably vouch and support me. The domestic operation of freighter is not viable in this country. Let's not fool ourselves. When I can move trucking at 5 rupees a kilo, and Nikhil, I don't know whether you can let them know what's your cost of operation, right? And I'm sure Indigo is sitting and SpiceJet probably sitting. they can say what is the domestic cost of operation running freighter. So I believe the current cost of the operation of domestic freighter would be nothing less than 65 rupees a kilo.
Okay.
Right? So let's not fool ourselves. You will not get domestic freighter. Blue Dart today is running domestic freighter because it's their captive business. Let's not get carried away what Blue Dart has done. So my point is, when you're looking freighter, concentrate more on the wide body for the international, and that's where the future is. Let's not burn our money, entrepreneurs' money, and getting fool ourselves. That we
Great
need
point.
more freight.
Great point. I think, and let's give a big hand to Tushar Bhai. He's been very brief, and thank you, and he's made a point, and I think that's a great point because he's talking from experience. We can continue to strive and look at the other options, but yes, we will take that on record. Yes, Bala, please quickly.
Thank you. Bala, just only 47 years in this young industry. A very important point for ACFI. You have a simplification task pillar. Does it close our eyes sometimes to say that I will try to simplify what I have? That means I may choose not to go beyond unintentionally. So sometimes what we do in every industry, we ask the customer to cut his or her leg according to the shoe we manufacture. We do not manufacture a shoe according to their leg. So I think probably if we go a little bit beyond and take Vaibhav's point in terms of multimodal as a point as to say what customer wants, then we will only look at the air cargo aspect of it, but dialogue with other industries and other things, including regulatory, will become broader, more meaningful, practical. Again, as Manoj said, to the grass level, not at the policy level.
Thank you. Great point. And we have vacancies open on the process simplification pillar.
Application, I have sent it already morning.
Okay, great. Any other questions? Dr. Divakar.
This is Dr. Divakar Goyal here. I am Chairman Aero Academy of Aviation Science and Management. You see, we all are talking about the wishes of the shipper. We had been talking about truck to air to truck dwell time, and we had a national policy to make it 8 hours, not 24 hours. But the main issue is the shipper is interested from air to destination, not to truck. You see, what is all policy makers are there, the big wig of cargo is there. Why can't we have, all metros are coming at the airports and all, you are planning an airport. I am very happy with the Xavier Airport dedicated freight corridor made out. Why not a cargo train reserved for when the time is there, and from Delhi Airport, for example, you can have a cargo train. So that at least the air to destination point will be there and the wishes of the shipper will be that only.
Thank you, sir. I think that's a great point. There is a lot of work being done on multimodal, including how do we do, I mean, generally you would know air and road go together and rail and sea go together, but there is work being done on this front as well. Any more questions? Yeah, madam, sorry. Can you bring the mic here, please? Yeah, please.
Hello, everyone. I have 2 questions, but short ones. One is, we've spoken a lot about adding capacity and infrastructure development. There is 150 aircraft sitting on the ground. This is more to Kapil call because he had pointed it out. I don't know whether he's still in the room or not, but has an opportunity cost of that idle capacity or unused capacity being done, particularly in terms of what is the impact on the final price, which is the passenger ticket and the cargo freight rates. Because the moment we talk of these numbers, then maybe Tushar's point of 65 will come down to 60, and we are in a better off position. More generally, to grow the industry, not to cut his point at all. We may still have a need only for wide bodies, but for domestic connectivity, maybe there is room for growth. That was one point. The second point is that I'm very happy actually to see us move from infrastructure only in this ACFI forum to other sectors, a point that has also been made by Manoj. But I think it's not just the shippers or the freight forwarders, etc., who need to be here. I think we need CIIs, FICIs, and the actual manufacturers also to be here, because they are the ones who will be able to tell us as to where we want to go. And secondly, I want to see regulators in this room. You had policymakers. It's a great advance that from one ministry, which is civil aviation, we actually got in Commerce Ministry as well. But I think we need the regulators, which is BCAS and DGCA and others from the tech side as well. I thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I think